Hello friends, this is Otz, and today we're going to talk about a certain statement. 4 words that if you say them in this particular order will piss off a large portion of the Dead by Daylight community. If you have a lot of hours in this game, like myself, and you've played it so much that you're half burnt out, what I'm about to say might make a lot more sense. If you're a little bit newer and you haven't experienced that yet, it might not make so much sense, but I promise, hear me out, I will explain myself. The statement is as follows. DBD has gotten better. This is something that some people will never accept, that they do not want to hear. They are convinced that the game has gotten worse because they are enjoying the game less than they used to. But I honestly think that it's very difficult to debate this point. I think DBD overall, especially in the last few years, has undeniably gotten better. And before we move on to the next point, I'll just quickly address a few points to support this claim, okay? First one, the chapters. A few years ago, we had chapters that were honestly disaster after disaster. From tanking the performance on console and making the game almost unplayable, to introducing new metas and a very broken map on launch that made everything awful and had to be reverted later, to new characters that literally nobody wanted to play against and made people disconnect en masse, that had to be reworked maybe 2 or 3 times since and are still a problem even to this day. These were just such bad times. We were already very late into the development of Dead by Daylight and we still had these chapters come one after another. Compared to the chapters that we're getting today, they're not perfect and we've had some flops in between, but for the most part, the killers are better designed, the add-on and perk design are not nearly as broken and do not cause as much trouble, and overall they have been more stable with less bugs, with a few exceptions, Walking Dead chapter. So overall, chapters, a lot better. Another thing that I think is also very important are unfun and uninteractive scenarios. These are moments where a single player or a group of players can basically bully you by holding you hostage in one place or making you bleed out on the ground for God knows how long. All of these scenarios that are really, really unfun and that can make a player honestly suck all of the fun of the game for you for several minutes, sometimes forever, have mostly been addressed. You can now abandon if you're being bled out. You can no longer be body blocked indefinitely. Most of the glitch and exploits that players could use to make themselves invincible or hide forever have been taken care of, which is really, really good for the health of the game. And maps, which are a big part of this, have also been better. We had a string of really awful maps a few years ago when the map team was sorting out its internal staff, but now our maps are a little bit better. We no longer have as many spots where a survivor or a killer can make themselves uncatchable or can make a hook unreachable. And even if there are some exploits or some bugs, you cannot abuse them as often because map offerings have been nerfed. You no longer have the ability to send yourself to one specific map where you can basically dictate how the entire outcome of the game is going to play out. So I think this is also really, really, really good. And even though I still complain a lot about solo queue, trust me, I do not want to defend solo queue. It's so bad. Every time one of my teammates does something stupid that I know they wouldn't do if we were in comms, it feels awful. Even solo queue, which is possibly the worst experience you can have in this game, is still a little better. We have more information. We now know when someone's being face cammed, and they do make some improvements here and there that allow you to play a bit better, even with limited information. Not great, but a tiny little bit better, at least from my recent experiments. And obviously, this is really important for some people, quality of life improvements. You can now change the auras of scratch marks of different items. For some people that have color blindness issues, this allows them to play the game normally, which they couldn't do anymore. And don't even get me started with the blood web. Some time ago, before my streams, I had to spend 10 or 15 minutes just leveling up the blood web. It took so long to do something so boring that after a while becomes so mind-numbing. I hated every single minute of it. Sometimes I didn't want to stream DBD just because I had to go through this because the max blood points were so low. It was horrible, and luckily we don't have to do that anymore if we don't want to. We can just click a button, automatically spend the money, and then move on to what we actually want to do, which is to play the game. So all of these little improvements, if we were to put them on a graph, I guess it would look something like this, right? When the game came out, we had a lot of BS, and over time, this BS has gone down a little bit to the point where it's stabilized. There's still some peaks, there's still some things that sometimes come into the game and need to be fixed, right? But over time, the game is getting better. Well, if it's getting better, why are some people enjoying it less? Why are some people convinced that the game is getting worse? It has to do with the next graph that we're going to see, which is the player patience. Now, when you start playing a game, you have no expectations really. You don't know how the game is supposed to work, so you're very flexible. And when you enjoy it and you get invested, your patience might even get a little higher. At this point, if you go against a cheater, or if you have a massive bug, or maybe there's some kind of loss of progress, you don't mind too much. You don't even care. You will put up with it. But over time, your patience is going to start waning. When you first reach rank 1 and you get your rewards, and when you first reach quote unquote top MMR and you start playing against better and better players, the game is going to lose a little bit of its charm and your patience is going to start declining rapidly. But oh my god, this has happened to me. When you unlock every unlockable in the game, your patience is going to start nosedive into the ground. When I reached the point where I unlocked every character and every perk on every character and every single one of the tomes, when I did all of that, now I had nothing to do anymore. The only thing I have to do is maybe prestige 100 every character, which is impossible. It's kind of like throwing blood points into a bottomless well. I'll never probably do it, so why bother, right? When there is nothing to do, every time that you get blood points, it's for nothing. Every time you get charged, it's for nothing. Every time you do something, you don't have a greater goal in mind, and that makes it so much harder to enjoy this game. And what ends up happening, right, is that at one point, these two lines are going to converge. There's going to be a point where even though the game is getting better, you are now less patient and you will not put up with the bugs, with the inconsistencies, with a cheater, with a terrible teammate, with a horrible opponent that makes the game miserable, right? Even smaller things will now bother you. I am sad to report that I am well past the line, the point where the lines converge. Right now, DBD generally tests my patience. Even small things make me want to quit, make me want to take a break. And I do take breaks and I do play other games. If I wanted to play this game as consistently as I used to, I would probably lose my mind. So, the point of this video, the reason I'm bringing this up, it's not to gaslight anyone, it's to make some people understand that this game is getting better, but that does not invalidate your feelings of enjoying it less. I know this has happened to me. I know this will happen to almost everyone watching at some point, and that's okay. But yeah, I just wanted to make this video to address this point, the point that DBD is getting worse. It certainly isn't, but sadly DBD has to do more if it wants to earn the love and earn the devotion of really, really long-time players like myself, like maybe you watching at home. This game really does not have a lot in store for us. I hope that changes in the future. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video interesting.